Hello everyone. If this video found you before 2 a.m. on May 30th, you're meant to hear this. I feel a thing that you need to hear. Or if it reaches you at night on whatever date, okay? It's what's the creepiest thing you have ever heard a child say? First, my 4 year old daughter says that before she was born, she was a ghost. And when she was a ghost, she would spy on us because she couldn't wait to be alive and living with us. Next, I can't remember what I was talking to my son about, but he was about 2.5 years old and he said a big word. I didn't think he would know. I asked how he knew that word, and he said, I remember it from before when I was alive. Just a matter of fact. Next, my granddaughter has made a few comments about when I was big. She once told me she used to go to a restaurant and eat chicken by herself when she was big. She has said she used to be big, but now she's little. Next. When she was nearly 3, my daughter suddenly, randomly said one day, kind of wistfully, I like it here with you, but I do miss my grandson, Jeremy. He was a good boy. I was like, what? She was like, what? I asked her if she could say that again, and she said, I didn't say anything, Mama. She didn't remember it at all. I don't believe in reincarnation, but this was just so random. Jeremy, if you are out there, they have got your grandma. To that, someone replied, my Aunt Joy died like a year before I was born. When I was maybe 2, my mother walked into the room where I was playing and I glanced up and said, I am Joy, and then went back to whatever I was doing. My mom has not gotten over that fact in 48 years. Okay. Uh huh. Next. Mine was about the same age when he told us we were his second family. I asked what happened to his first family. He said they died in a car crash. The same kid stood at the top of the basement stairs, shushed my cat that was meowing from the bottom of the basement stairs. The cat had died 3 days prior. Next. My brother used to talk about his friend Bill when he was a kid. There was an old house at the edge of our small town that used to be a farm, and every time we would drive past it, he would say that this is Bill's house and would talk about all the farm equipment Bill had. Everyone always brushed it off as a creative imagination, but a couple years back I was thinking about it and looked up the former land title information, and lo behold, there was a Bill who lived there back when it would have been a farm. Next. My son said he picked me to be his mommy when he was in heaven. He would always tell me that he was so glad he picked me. He also swore that God was a woman and Lord helps anybody that tried to change his mind. That's beautiful. Next. My oldest spoke of where he was before birth. He said he was with the other babies in God's power, and he called God a she, which was strange because we always said he, at least until then. So the child had no idea about it. My nephew talked about his life before he was alive a lot when he was young too. Next. We had just moved into an old farmhouse when one night my 3 year old at the time pointed at the glass door and asked why the other mummy was there. I looked and couldn't see anything and asked what she looked like. My 3 year old proceeded to explain that the other mummy was dirty and muddy and had blue lips and blonde hair. I kind of froze because we were home alone together. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And he says, yes, she lives under the ground. She said she had a good boy like me once. It made my stomach drop, and I took him to my room and I locked the door. Ha ha ha. Somebody asks, so have you found a body under the house yet? To which she replies, no, but who knows? It was a big property, hundreds of acres. My son mentioned the other mummy coming to visit on multiple occasions while we lived there. To which the commentator replies, wow, man, it would be interesting to find details of previous families who lived there. Maybe your kid would point at a photo and be like, that's the other mommy. Ooh, I would have moved so fast. To which she replies, I tried but never found anything. The farm always felt creepy. It was an old nut plantation. My son would tell me the other mummy is in the trees. He now firmly believes that if something or one dies and you plant a tree on top of them, then they don't actually die. They get taken in by the tree and keep living as the tree. I mean, do whatever you want. It's night and you are here listening to me. Keep that in mind. We are not alone. Next. My little sister used to say, sometimes at night a man comes into my room and tries to eat me. She would wake up in cold sweats and sleep in my room almost every night. It got so bad we had to take her to a therapist. Turns out our stepdad used to come in her room at night and touch her. I'm not sure if this counts as a creepy, but it was scary to me. She's currently in trauma therapy, and my stepfather is no longer in the picture. This became sad so quickly, right? My nephew told me the basement people want my skin. Next. A 5-year old once said to me with a great deal of sympathy, a long time ago, I used to be just like you. I'm starting to forget the names of the people who live in my head. No context, right in the middle of cleanup time, my baby told me. Next. My niece was talking to her imaginary friends, sorry for the honking, in the back of the car. She said it was a boy and girl about her age, and they were brother and sister. Then, as we came near the end of a road, she said, this is their home. Can we drop them off here? Myself and my sister were laughing about it until they reached the end of the road, and it was a cemetery. She gave a little wave and said goodbye as we passed. Next. A 6-year old I worked with about 6 months ago said, it's Cory. Hi, Cory, to an empty corner. Cory is my grandmother's name. She died in 2020. I pulled up a picture of her and asked who it was, and he said, so sorry, her name is Cory. One morning, my 4-year-old niece told my sister in law about a nice old man that visited her the night before. Her parents are a little freaked out, but her room is on the second floor and the old man supposedly floated through the window. A little later, they get a call that my grandfather has passed away. That night, they're looking through a photo album, and my niece pointed to my grandfather and said, that's the nice man that came to see me. That's so sweet. Next. Not sure if this counts, but when I was 8, I had a new babysitter. She was a teenager. And right after my parents left, she asked me in this pleasant tone, all right, unicorn puppy, where's the stuff your daddy drinks before he hits your mommy? I come from a stable household. So sorry for the noise again. I'll repeat. I come from a stable household with two parents that had a good marriage. I was confused and said, I don't know, my dad does not hit my mom. And she fell kind of silent. The rest of the night, till my parents got back, she was awkwardly quiet and I never saw her again. It's only recently I remembered this and the realization of what was going on in her life came to me. I feel bad that I took my stable childhood and having two loving parents in my life for granted. Somebody replied, you might have given her a gift though. She learned that it's normal. It's not normal for lovers to hit each other. It does not sound like she knew that before. That makes it sadder. I wouldn't take it too hard. Taking something like that for granted when you're 8 is not something you should have been doing. Don't feel sorry for being able to have grown up in a good home. True. Next. Unsure if this counts, but here we go. Ha ha ha. When I was 4, I had an imaginary friend. Here we go. His name was Billy. Sometimes his friend was with him. Her name was Lady. Billy went with me everywhere. He had a spot at the table. He was on the swing next to me at the park, slept on the top bunk, etc. I was really afraid of milk tankers and would shake and cry whenever I saw one. When I saw an ambulance, I'd say, Mum, Billy died in there. Anyway, we moved to a small town to be closer to my grandparents, and Mum started doing ancestry. She found an uncle named Billy who died in an ambulance after colliding with a milk tanker. His wife was with him, can't remember her name, but her nickname was Lady. Also, two of their three kids were in the car. Unfortunately, no one survived. Turns out the small town we just moved to was the town it happened just out of, and they died about 15 years before I was born. Next, when my niece was about 3 years old, she told her mum that she liked her much better than her other mummy because her other mummy was mean. And one day she held my head under the water for too long. Same niece, aged around 6, told me that her creepily named dolls were made of blood and bones and mud. But watch out. Don't let them touch you because they'll turn you into a doll. I turn away from the dolls and she says to something behind me, No, Ethel, I told you, do not touch her. She's the best. Next. I used to be a policeman, but then I died. I was trying to stop a burglary, and the burglars were really tough with me. They were really tough with me, and then I died. This was a 4-year-old I used to babysit. Next. My daughter, aged 3 or 4. Mommy, remember the time we were in a fire? Remember it was scary and I was crying and we went to the top of the building and then we died? Remember? Same age. Mommy, remember the time I was riding my bike and I was hit by a car and died? Gets creepy, gives me the goosebumps. Next, meeting my niece for the first time while staring me out and trying with all her 6-year-old might to break my finger in half, clenching and wrenching and screaming like a weightlifter possessed. She suddenly stopped unblinking and said, I promise there's a good person trapped inside of me. Glad to report she did not turn out to be a psychopath, but in the back of my head, I always think, not a psychopath yet. Next, my 2-year-old saw me organizing, sorry for the sound, my 2-year-old saw me organizing my basketball cards. He tottered over and said, When I was big, I used to buy those for you. My dad bought me those cards 25 years ago, shortly before he passed away. Next. We were at a family gathering, and then my 4-year-old daughter did not want to leave. She kept repeating, But it's the last time we will all be together, as we had to literally football carry her out while wrangling our other kids. We were at a beloved aunt's home who suddenly passed 2 weeks later. It was indeed the last time we were all together. What I wouldn't give to have listened to my daughter in that moment and stayed longer at my aunt's house. Please listen to your children, kids. Next, my offer has offered me what she called dye tea and night night shorts. She was probably around 3. That's a funny one. Next, my friend's daughter, aged 6, said to her little brother, aged 4, I want to peel your face like an orange. I mean, that's an impressive imagery for a 6-year-old to have. Next, once my son looked at me and said, Oh, you're having a baby? I had just found out I was expecting and hadn't told anyone. I asked him why he said that, and he just shrugged and said, Just a feeling. I miscarried less than a week later, and he looked at me randomly and said, Oh, no more baby. The pregnancy, miscarriage, etc., had never been discussed around him. It was very strange. Next. I'm so sorry for your loss. I remember as a kid, my older brother told me there was a baby before us out of nowhere. We would have been like 5 and 7, and I was like, huh? I don't think there's any reason my parents would have discussed this with him or even with him in earshot. I didn't discover my mom did have a miscarriage until recently because I had trouble carrying a pregnancy. And when I told my dad, my mom has sadly passed away, he told me about my mom's miscarriage in 86 and our situations are sound similar. And I should ask my doctor about XYZ. My brother wasn't born until 89. So, like I said, I just can't see a situation in which they would have been discussing her miscarriage in 86 at an age my brother would have been old enough to remember. Who knows? Kind of a similar thing with another person. Our daughter was 5 and drew a picture of two people, one bigger and one smaller. We asked her who they were, and she said it was her and her sister. A month later, my wife found out she was pregnant with her second child, a girl. Right before I found out the gender of my second child, my oldest would stand on the steps and say, "Two for daddy, yay!" We could not figure out why. The day I found out we were having a second girl, my oldest said it one last time when we told her about her sister. Never repeated it again. Next, my brother's friend was a teacher in a very rural Australian school, and her class were all indigenous kids, Aboriginal. When the lunch bell rang, the kids would fight to go play on the oval. One day, the lunch bell went off, and all the kids just sat there. She asked, "Aren't you going out on the oval to play?" One of the kids replied, "No, miss, the tall men are there." She looked and didn't see anything and said so. One of the other kids said, "She can't see them. She's a white fella." And they wouldn't go outside. Ooh, I'm Aussie, and my indigenous friends have spoken of something similar, but they called him the Gunjadi man. If that was a joke, they played on her and is absolutely hilarious. I'll just speak for 2 more minutes and y'all will be able to see this video. Okay, do let me know how y'all felt about it. Next, Mommy, you're in a bubble and floating away. I was already dealing with postpartum depression when my 2 year old said this to me over and over again for weeks. I started to think I was going insane. Damn, this one actually made me feel something. Like her 2 year old could feel that she was slipping away emotionally or something, what I feel. Next, I moved from Maine to Texas to live with my brother who was in the Air Force. Air Force. Mind you, we have no family or friends in Texas, so I didn't know a single soul. While working at Walmart in FT Worth, I had an unknown child come up to me and say, "I know you," to which I said, "Must be a mistake, I'm not from here." The kid then said he remembered seeing me eating at a unique local restaurant from my hometown in Maine last year. This was such a weird experience. I still never figured out who he was. Must have been like 10, 11 years old only. Next, there's a tiny percentage of the population with an extremely high level of facial recognition ability. Sounds like that combined with a lack of adult social filter while interaction, though. Next, when I was a toddler, my family said anytime they would hold me in their arms, I would start whispering in their ear, "Behind you." My mother thought it was funny, but it scared the shit out of my siblings and aunt. That's a funny one. My little cousin, at about 3 years old, looked at us all at the family gathering and said, I went down with the ship. Then he switched back to 3 year old English and started playing. Last one for today. "Mommy, can we sleep with the TV on? I don't want the big people to watch us sleep again." The night before, I had a terrible nightmare that aliens were watching us sleep. It was almost like an out of body experience because I could see us in bed and my bedroom exactly how I left it that night. At first, I didn't think anything of it until she said that, and then I realized maybe it was not a dream. She was only 2 at the time. That's it. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll come back with more such stories. Creepy, haunting, romantic, love, whatever, crime thrillers, whatever you want to hear me speak on. Do let me know in the comments. Till then, take care. Bye bye.